There are two types of successful people. Well, not really, but let's just roll with that assumption for this video. We have those who are naturally endowed and those who are not but put in the hours to become a master in their field. For example, if we look at sports, those who are naturally gifted, or talented as some might say, will probably have the right build for their sport, or a keen eye, or fast motor skills, or hand-eye coordination. You get it. Or maybe it's not something physical that they're born with, but wealth. Those who are financially well endowed will have the capital to hire the best coaches or purchase the best equipment to help them bypass countless hours of training and trial and error as they are rushed through the shortcut version as the lucky speedrunners they are. Or perhaps it's not money they're born into, but connections, a well-networked family that can open countless doors for them. Now, those of us, most of us, who aren't just born perfect or lucky, have to work for what we have. We do have to put in countless hours if we ever want to have a chance at being the best or simply seeing the spotlight shine down on us. For most of us, success is a scary concept because we know it means work, and a lot of it. It requires dedication and focus, discipline, sweat and tears. It's a painstaking process that we work through because we can see that light at the end of the tunnel that makes our hopeful little minds think it might all just be worth it in the end. But what if I told you that that's a strength and not a weakness? What if I told you that this ready mindset that is primed and prepared for the long road ahead is another, different, and maybe less desired example of being naturally endowed? Though not physically or financially, but mentally, emotionally. And what if I told you that this is one of the many lessons hidden within Pixar's gem of a film, Monsters University? Well, if you believed me, you might not be as surprised as to why this is my favorite Pixar film and why I think more people need to give it another chance. It is easily one of the most overlooked and underrated Pixar films, and in my opinion, it shouldn't be. Because what if I told you that we just barely cracked the surface? So stick around, take a seat, maybe grab a snack or two, because in the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to open your eyes to the wonderful and wholesome lessons that we can draw from the absolute gem that is Monsters University. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sandbox. This is a special day as this is actually my 200th video on the channel, and that is a fact. You could check it if you want. But it's also my birthday, and a very special one at that, as my wife and I are currently celebrating it in Costa Rica for our honeymoon. Good luck fact-checking that one, though. And so, given the special circumstances, I wanted to remake my very first published video on the channel in the form of a video essay to highlight more of this wondrous Pixar film and less of my distracting face. This is still my favorite Pixar film to this day, that is true, and while my thoughts and feelings regarding it have changed, they've changed for the better. They've evolved, if you will. It has helped to open my eyes to the true meaning of success, and I think it can help others too. Success is certainly something we're all striving for, whether that be starting up a new business, finishing your first novel, or just earning the respect of a parental figure. And I think this film shines a fantastic light on the subject that simply needs to be discussed more. So let's not waste any more time, buckle up, pop a squat, and seriously, grab a snack. I mean, why not? And let's get started.
How do I become a scarer?
Now obviously, when it comes to success, no one can fit in just one box. We are all an array of different perspectives and experiences, strengths and weaknesses, tastes and preferences, and likewise with success, there are many different forms that it can take. However, Monsters University provides great examples for the two extremes of this array by setting up its assumption that there are two main types of successful people. The Solis who are naturally gifted, and the Mikes who work harder than anyone.
You don't need to study scaring, you just do it.
Really? I think there's a little more to it than that.
The film gives us these two extreme cases of successful students, being that both of them were admitted into the school and accepted as scare students, and shows us what exactly it is that makes them so special, quickly and determinably.
Who can tell me the properties of an effective roar?
There are actually 5. Those include the roar's resonance, the duration of the roar, and the...
Whoop, sorry. I heard someone say roar, so I just kind of went for it.
Very impressive. Mr.
Sullivan. Jimmy Sullivan.
Sullivan. Like Bill Sullivan, the scarer?
Yeah, he's my dad.
James P. Sullivan comes from a popular and well-connected family. He has the talent as a scarer and the inherent ferocious body to back it up. And it's shown how easy his life has been up to this moment as he manages to impress the teacher with his talented roar despite showing up late to class. Meanwhile, we see that Mike Wazowski doesn't have these types of connections nor the optimal physical build. Instead, we're shown how intelligent he is and how he's committed himself to the art of scaring. Everything he's earned up to this point has been due to countless hours of hard work. In other words, while Sully has been told yes his entire life, we see how strong and determined Mike's character is despite having been told no his entire life. This very same scene drills in this fact as we see Mike is the only one who knows the criteria for a successful roar before being cut off by Professor Knight and being told no once more.
I'm sorry. Should I keep going?
No. Mr. Sullivan's covered it.
And so, after being properly inspired by Dean Hardscrabble, our two students go their separate ways before soon bumping into each other with Sully's prank gone wrong and Mike having to bail him out with recapturing FearTech's mascot. Of course, he goes unnoticed for this feat, further validating his feelings of inadequacy, but also igniting the fire within him to prove them all wrong.
Just wait, Hotshot. I'm gonna scare circles around you this year.
Oh, okay. I'd like to see that.
After this, the film kicks into high gear, further setting up our characters and their arcs, and showing us what issues these two extremes will face and what results they might yield, especially within Act 1, leading up to the fall semester's final exams. We see the ever-optimistic and diligent Mike avoiding parties, picking up a job on the side, and not even joining any clubs despite his attendance at the club fair. And what does this yield? A successful student who outperforms his classmates, but lacks a social life. Meanwhile, Sully is living it up at college, outside of the classroom, enjoying the parties as he networks with fraternities, but he's also barely passing his exams. It's established that he is a lazy student who relies on his last name and his talent alone, and he lacks the commitment to his studies that Mike and even the members of Roar Omega Roar have. I mean, he didn't even bring a pencil to the first day of school, the bare minimum for any student. And of course, when final exams roll around, our characters have to lay it all on the line and see where their paths have taken them. Each extreme is competing to prove that they're the best, and that they're the optimal case for finding success at becoming a scarer. And I'll tell you what, the film is intent on showing them what success really means. But here's the kicker. It does so in the most brilliant way, by taking it all away from them.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Now, seeing as we're in the middle of a discussion on my favorite Pixar film, I figured now would be a great time to switch gears and talk a bit about one of my favorite books. Don't worry, this is worth it, and I'll be quick.
This is the way.
The Tao of Pooh. And for those of you just listening on audio, no, not that kind of Pooh, Winnie the Pooh. Another familiar face for Disney fans, although he appears a bit differently in this book. Hey, I said a bit differently. The Tao of Pooh is a great, quick read that uses the characters from the 100-Acre Woods to explain the many philosophies and ideals of Taoism. The main one being that everyone has a certain unique path in life, which is also referred to as the way. And it hounds on the notion that life and our many endeavors in it are easiest when we accept our paths and follow them as seamlessly as a river follows a crack in the earth. Of course, the hardest part of all this is figuring out what exactly our path is, but hey, what better time or place to learn than one's own college career? And this is another fantastic component of Monsters University, with the film putting on full display that Mike and Sully are both struggling on their individual paths, as they have no idea what the way means for them.
Unlike you, I had to work hard to get into the SCARE program.
That's because you don't belong here.
And so, being kicked out of the SCARE program was arguably the best thing that could have ever happened to them, because they weren't on their correct paths to begin with. Which Dean Hardscrabble takes no delight in teaching them. Well, maybe a little delight.
I don't need to know any of that stuff to scare.
That stuff would have informed you that this particular child is afraid of snakes. So a roar wouldn't make him scream, it would make him cry, alerting his parents, exposing the monster world, destroying life as we know it, and of course we can't have that. So I'm afraid I cannot recommend that you continue in the scaring program. Good day.
She humbles Sully swiftly and effectively here, showing him that raw talent alone is not enough to turn a successful student into a successful professional scarer. And his dependence on his family name is more crippling than it is an advantage that he should be using at this stage in his life.
But I'm a Sullivan.
Well then, I'm sure your family will be very disappointed. And Mr. Wazowski, what you lack is something that cannot be taught. You're not scary. You will not be continuing in the scaring program.
Meanwhile, Mike is told no once again, that he's not scary and therefore shall not be continuing on as a scare student. And suffice it to say, neither of them take this remarkably well.
Now plunge into the rich history of Scream Can design.
However, while being kicked off of this incorrect path is not what they want, it is what they need, because now they'll have the chance to discover the right path for themselves over the main course of the film. Which really kicks off with Mike's big idea to enter the scare games and prove he's the best, albeit with the most pitiful group of monsters.
Oh, hey there! Wanna join Ooze Macappa?
We have cake!
Sully also tags along, seeing as they are in need of another member for the team and seeing a window of opportunity. Again, not what Mike wants, but certainly what he needs, as we'll find out. Now, of course, right off the bat, Mike and Sully both clash against one another and cause the team to do poorly. They are still battling against the new path set before them, fighting the flow of the river and ignoring the way. They are still trying to prove that they are the best extreme case. However, as time progresses, they are forced to put in the work and depend on one another as teammates, and only then do they start seeing a glimpse of actual success, with moving on to subsequent rounds, no luck required. And here's the thing, they actually start doing really well. We see them grow as a team, learn more about one another, and find windows of opportunity to use their individual strengths to the benefit of the team. And even though it's still for selfish reasons, we do see them beginning to accept the new paths set before them. Their destinations still haven't changed, and they never do, as we know they both end up on the scare floor at Monsters Inc., but the paths they take and the way they get there most certainly do change. Sully is learning to rely on his brothers rather than just his own raw talent. He's learning more scaring skills and finally starting to fully commit. And while he still hasn't completely opened up quite yet, it's still clear that his shell is starting to break open. And Mike is also starting to let loose. He's gaining friends, he's using his know-how to coach a team, and he's even opened up to the idea of attending a party.
Take a deep breath, and in you go!
Of course, this turns out to be a huge trap, with the other frats and sororities ganging up on them and mocking them in front of the entire school, and all of which leads to further strife within their team.
We just need to keep trying.
No, you need to stop trying. You can train monsters like this all you want, but you can't change who they are.
Mike, we appreciate everything you've done. But he's right. No matter how much we train, we'll never look like them. We're built for other things.
Without this moment, they might never have become scarers. The scarers that deep down they all know they are. Because lucky for them, Mike is no stranger to being told no, and so this terrible low becomes the catalyst to a great high, with Mike forcing them all to accompany him on a mandatory field trip. And I just love this moment. We watch them learn together that it's their differences that are their advantages. It's the things that make them unique that they can use in becoming the best versions of themselves. It's our differences that become our sails when floating down that river of life. And not only does each member of Ooze Macappa earn some level of validation here, but we also see Mike and Sully finally apologize for their behaviors and turn over a new leaf.
I've been a real jerk.
So have I. But it's not too late. We could be a great team. We just need to start working together.
We finally see them accept each other as teammates. And the whole team gets to bond here, really. I mean, what better way is there for a group of guys to bond than a close run-in with the law? Am I right, fellas?
I can't go back to jail!
And after this, our team becomes fully committed to themselves and each other, which the film makes evident with a simple scene of them donning their own makeshift uniforms. They start putting in the work, and a lot of it, with their eyes on the prize. And my god, do I love the montage that the film gives us here. It's filled with inspiring music and visuals of conquest and strife as the team is putting in the countless hours of training, and they're using their differences to their advantage. They continue to grow alongside one another as they move up the leaderboard, moving on from one round to the next, and ultimately even earning a spot in the finals. And this is when we are blessed with the rawest, absolute best line in the entire film.
After you lose, no one will remember you.
Maybe, but when you lose, no one will let you forget it.
However, before we can move on to the final competition, the film must remind us that this is still all talk, because there's still one weak link within the team, Mike himself.
Tomorrow, each of you must prove that you are undeniably scary. And I know for a fact that one of you is not.
No, he works harder than anyone.
Do you think he's scary?
He's the heart and soul of the team.
Do you think he's scary?
And we get a great moment here, seeing that Sully really is progressing along his path, and even quicker than Mike. He defends his new friend against Dean Hardscrabble's judgment and recognizes his tremendous work ethic, something he did not value at the beginning. And this of course leads to an impromptu scaring lesson between the two extremes, where the jock is hoping to impart a little talent onto the nerd. An impossible task that will only set them up for failure, but also perhaps give them a chance to find true success. And this brings us to the first climax, where the film bestows upon us several emotional and powerful moments, all the while teasing even bigger things to come, filling us all with both sadness and excitement alike as we finally get to witness David compete against Goliath. Suffice it to say, the third act does a lot of heavy lifting that makes this movie feel like an epic. This is where it all comes together, where everything we've seen them work towards is either fulfilled or denied a final time. But this time, we get to see our two extremes compete not against each other, but together as the unstoppable and terrifying duo that we know they can be. However, before we get into that, I have to commend the film for also showing us the results that more balanced and well-rounded students can achieve when they put their heads down and put in the work, particularly with the Uzma Kappa brothers.
Thanks for taking it easy on Grandpa.
We see their advantageous differences on full display. Dawn's adhesiveness, the Terry's misdirection, Squishy's silent creep, and even Art's fluid-like mobility. The main focus of the film is still on our two extreme cases of success, but I love that they give these more minor, more normal cases time to shine and validate us as an audience that success can be attained by anyone. Because again, success comes in many, many different forms. But back to the Mike and Sully show, the big moments of this competition are of course Sully versus Randall and Mike Wazowski versus Jonathan Worthington. Mike has been intent on proving that he is undeniably scary all this time, and so the film earns this moment, gifting us with one of the greatest feelings it can invoke when Mike shows them all up with a record-breaking scare. But it doesn't end there. And why? Because Mike hasn't fully accepted his true path yet. He still needs to learn what success is for someone like him. And so how does the film follow up this insane high? That's right, with one of the lowest points for our team, with Mike and the OK brothers finding out that Sully cheated. Mike is once again further invalidated, and similar to the start of the film, he has everything he's worked for stripped away from him. He's told no once more. And again, we get more confirmation here that Sully has really grown. He's learned his lesson and nearly completed his arc at this point by showing that he has a newfound understanding and acceptance of his new path. As he doesn't fight it this time, he embraces it. We see him give up the trophy, turn down his invitation to the Roar Frat, and instead turn himself in, no longer looking out for just himself, but now his friends, his brothers. But it's not without consequences. The dean, of course, scolds him as she kicks him out of the school, and further drills into his big fear and his false perception of success.
You're a disgrace to this university. and your family name.
And so, likewise with Mike, Sully's story comes full circle, being kicked out and losing everything once again. Although, this time, for him, it's willingly. And this is what kicks us into overdrive as we are pushed towards the second climax, with Mike taking a door hostage and this time, Sully bailing him out instead. Because it's clear he knows exactly what Mike's up to.
You don't think that could be?
It's Mike.
And after Mike is given the biggest, most undeniable no of his entire life, Sully is the one who finds him at the lake, where we get the most heartfelt scene in the film.
You were right. They weren't scared of me. I did everything right. I wanted it more than anyone. And I thought if I wanted it enough, I could show everybody that Mike Wazowski is something special.
Look, Mike, I know how you feel.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. You do not know how I feel.
Mike, calm down.
Monsters like you have everything. You don't have to be good. You can mess up over and over again, and the whole world loves you.
Mike.
You'll never know what it's like to fail, because you were born a Sullivan.
Yeah, I'm a Sullivan. I'm the Sullivan who flunked every test. The one who got kicked out of the program. The one who was so afraid to let everyone down that I cheated. And I lied. Mike, I'll never know how you feel. But you're not the only failure here. I act scary, Mike. But most of the time, I'm terrified.
And after this heart-to-heart, they become more than friends, they become brothers. And not just the fraternity kind. Real brothers. Sully is ready to put his full, unfledged faith within Mike's knowledge and technique, and Mike is finally ready to accept his new path and put his faith in Sully's ferocious body and talented roar. They are ready to save their skins, knowing full well what they have to do to escape, use their collective traits, and rely on each other to scare full-grown adults. But of course not without a gentle nudge from Mike first, where he reminds Sully that he's found his path, he's found the way, and it's time to stick to it.
Are you ready?
Mike, I can't.
Yes, you can. Stop being a Sullivan and start being you.
And this is where we get the most epic scene in all of Pixar, with the true power of this fiery duo on full display, terrifying adults and even shaking Dean Hardscrabble to her blackened core.
How did you do this?
Don't ask me.
Success comes in many different forms, but oftentimes to find it, we have to abandon our preconceived notions of what success is. Sometimes we have to take a step back before we can take 2 steps forward. And that's another reason why I love this third act. It shows a reasonable and authentic timeline for success, with our extremes losing progress before finding true success in the end. Sully needed to grow up and learn that talent alone is not enough, that technique and finesse are just as important to being a successful scarer, but also that every successful person has a trustworthy team behind them. Mike, on the other hand, needed to learn that he isn't meant to be a scarer. His knowledge, his technique, his wit, and commitment make him the best coach Sully could have ever hoped to find, but his true path was never becoming a scarer himself. It was becoming a leader.
You pulled off the biggest scare this school has ever seen.
That wasn't me.
That was you. You think I could have done that without you? I didn't even bring a pencil on the first day of school. Mike, you're not scary. Not even a little. But you are fearless.
They both needed to learn that by themselves they weren't destined to find success as a scarer, for they had put all their eggs in one basket. And it wasn't until accepting their newfound paths and relying on one another's skill set as a team that they started to get a real taste of success. Look, pulling off a scare on your own isn't the only way for a successful scare. Dean Hardscrabble may have done it all on her own, breaking the scare record, and assumably still holding that record at this point in the franchise, but Mike and Sully are the dynamite duo that they are because of teamwork, because they bring out each other's strengths to their full potential. And if you still don't think the movie is about teamwork, at least on some level, then take another look at the camp name in the cabin. Yes, Mike and Sully were destined to end up together and serve the sickest alley-oop in all of monster history. And while they might have surprised Dean Hardscrabble now, just wait until they steal her record down the road. We all have traits that make us unique and give us an edge over the competition in some way. What traits and an edge in what exactly? Well, you'll have to figure that out for yourself. However, in the end, it doesn't really matter. Any trait can be used in any field. Our advantageous differences are meant to guide us and help us, but they don't have to define us. Just look at Mike. He's the least scariest monster there is, and even he ended up with a job on the scare floor. Yes, finding our path can feel scary at times. It requires trial and error and a lot of effort. But so long as you follow your path and lean on your strengths or lean on your team, no matter what roadblock life presents you with, you'll be able to find a new path around it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like and comment below what your favorite Pixar film is. I would certainly love to hear what stories you guys are connecting with the most and why. Putting this all together was a lot harder than I expected, especially after losing all of my data and having to start this all over from scratch. It's definitely not the same video as it was before, but I learned a lot, especially about myself throughout the process, and it was certainly a fitting experience given the resilient characters within this film. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed it and were able to take something special away and maybe see Monsters University in a new light and give it another chance. But anyways, that's enough from me. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you all next time.